As you close your eyes tonight, have you ever wondered, what if everything we know, every memory, every dream, every heartbeat is part of a greater simulation? What if Earth itself is not just a home, but a test? In this journey, we'll drift between science and wonder, between the hidden architecture of sleep and the vast silence of the cosmos, searching for clues to the question, are we living in a simulation? This is your invitation to settle in, breathe deeply, and let your imagination expand as far as the stars. And before we begin, if you'd like to travel further with us into mysteries of the mind, the universe, and everything in between, remember to subscribe to Beyond Our Dawn. Together, we'll explore the questions that keep us awake and the dreams that guide us when we sleep. They whispered that not every clock hangs on a wall. Some lie hidden beneath a pillow, silent and invisible, yet steady in their purpose, counting not minutes or hours, but the gentleness of a night. You breathe in, you breathe out, and the rhythm is like the tide, rolling in and out without end. Outside the window, the sky changes, shifts, stars sliding across their ancient routes so the night can settle more deeply. The world grows quieter, and beneath your pillow a subtle hum seems to rise, a vibration you feel more than hear. The clock under your pillow keeps time in a language your body understands, but your waking mind cannot translate. It whispers there. Is order even here, when you believe yourself most unguarded, before dreams arrive? The body travels through corridors of silence. Researchers describe them as stages of non-REM sleep, where brainwaves slow, muscles repair, and systems align themselves like workers on a night shift. Later comes REM sleep, marked by rapid eye movements, when vivid dreams bloom and vanish. It is as though a secret theater has opened, casting forgotten fragments of your day as actors. The hippocampus, that inner archivist, replays memories. The man on the subway, the headline you scanned, the smile you half returned. The amygdala, fiery and insistent, paints each scene with emotion, embarrassment, delight, dread, longing. Together they improvise a story stitched from biology and imagination, both playhouse and laboratory at once. On your nightstand sits another clock, the cracked watch you never repaired, its second hand frozen at an odd angle. Its silence is obvious, a reminder that time can fracture. Yet beneath your pillow another rhythm continues, invisible, shy, but certain. It does not measure deadlines or appointments. It counts in cycles of breath, in the gentle dropping of your guard, in the distance, travelled by the mind as it lets go of the day. If Earth itself were some kind of test, perhaps this is where the exam begins. Not in great speeches or acts of heroism, but in the quiet choice to allow your own body to do its work. Do you surrender to the process? Do you let the hidden clock mark your place? Or do you resist, fighting the tide with glowing screens and restless thought, unable to trust what lies beyond control? This nightly surrender may be the first question we ever face. In classrooms, tests are announced. In life, they rarely are. Sleep itself could be part of a larger exam, one designed not to evaluate productivity or brilliance, but the ability to release, to reorganize chaos without effort, to hand yourself to the mysterious with faith that tomorrow will be better because of it. The average human spends nearly a third of life asleep. In those hours, the immune system recalibrates, emotions regulate, memory consolidates. Deprived of sleep, judgment falters, resilience breaks down, moods collapse. This is the one test that cannot be skipped without consequence. It is not optional. The pillow clock demands attendance. Consider what scientists call the ratio of memory. In waking life, every moment adds to a pile. Words overheard, faces glimpsed, errands half finished. In sleep, the useful signals are strengthened and the meaningless noise fades. This is not random but deliberate, as if an unseen grading rubric has been applied. Which lessons will you keep? Which fears will be dulled? Which insights will be woven into long-term knowledge? The answers are not spoken, but written into the shifting patterns of neural waves. REM cycles come and go like tides. Each cycle replays fragments with different emphasis. The theatre of the mind performs its scenes again and again, altering tone, trimming lines, strengthening arcs, until the story feels whole enough to shelve. You wake believing you know what matters, unaware that the librarians of the night have worked without credit. In this private stage, time bends. A single dream may span years, a whole life compressed into minutes, or an hour can vanish into a flash of color. The pillow clock measures faithfully, but not in seconds. Its hands are neural surges, slow waves giving way to rapid bursts, patterns folding into one another. It is a timepiece without numerals, and yet it keeps order. To imagine Earth as a test is to wonder whether this distortion is itself a question. How do we respond when time betrays us? When a moment stretches unbearable or collapses into nothing? Do we panic or do we accept, adapting our story to fit the strange rhythm? Every night, deep within the hippocampus, memories are replayed. The archivist selects which ones to copy into long-term shelves, which to discard into the bin. The amygdala, seated like a fiery judge, amplifies some scenes, softens others, ensuring that what carries emotional weight is more likely to remain. This is biology's invisible stagehand, unseen but crucial. Without it, the play cannot proceed, the exam cannot be graded. Sleep is not wasted time. It is the rehearsal that allows life to continue, the invisible machinery that keeps the script coherent. You can starve, you can thirst, but nothing unravels the mind faster than refusing the nightly test. Even a few sleepless nights break cognition, distort perception, erode sanity. The exam is built into the cells. To resist is to fail. This test requires trust, and trust is not simple. Societies worship productivity, hours spent awake, results recorded. Surrender is seen as weakness. Yet biology does not care about culture. Circadian rhythms follow the sun. Melatonin rises with darkness. Body temperature dips before dawn. You can fight it, but you cannot escape it. The pillow clock is not negotiable. Trust means closing your eyes with no guarantee you will wake, giving yourself over to silence with no promise of what will be returned. And still, you do it gladly every single night. Perhaps the watchers, whoever or whatever they may be, care less about your accomplishments and more about this quiet trust. The willingness to let go may be the true metric. Now imagine, in the stillness before deep non-REM arrives, the pillow clock falters. A half-second pause, a skipped beat, as if a heart forgot its rhythm. You feel a brief weight of attention, as though something leans closer, examining. Then the tick resumes. But the question remains, what kind of dreamer will you be tonight? Will you accept the surrender, or will you resist the tide? That hesitation, that tiny gap, may be the opening question on the exam you never knew you were taking. The tick resumes, softer than breath, almost imagined, but there. You let yourself sink deeper, and the room around you dissolves into a kind of velvet silence. What happens next is invisible, yet the body follows a strict architecture, one designed not by choice but by millions of years of survival. Sleep is not a flat plane, but a series of descending staircases, repeating cycles that spiral like a hidden staircase beneath the floorboards of your mind. The first descent is light. Muscles twitch, your thoughts loosen, and you drift in and out as if rocking on gentle water. This is the entry hall, the shallow end of non-REM sleep. Then comes the deeper descent. Brainwaves slow, shifting into broad, synchronized pulses that sweep across the cortex like ocean swells. Heart rate steadies, blood pressure lowers, temperature drops. The body performs maintenance silently. Cells repair themselves. Growth hormone trickles into the bloodstream. Tissues knit. Scientists studying sleepers with electrodes saw these slow waves roll in great sheets, as if the brain were breathing. On a scale you never notice while awake. Each pulse a tide, each tide another mark on the invisible exam. Your pillow clock keeps rhythm, not in minutes, but in stages. Non-REM comes first, like a maintenance crew shutting down outer lights, oiling gears, replacing parts. It is the factory shift of the night, a time when neurons cool down their chatter, when glial cells clear debris, when the immune system reboots. Without this phase, you wake fragile, brittle, unable to think clearly, but with it, your body becomes whole again. It is as though the examiners wanted to see, can you let the crew work? Can you hand over your body for repair, trusting that in silence, order will be restored? After an hour or so, the tide shifts. You enter REM sleep. The silent factory gives way to a sudden storm of activity. Brainwaves spike, eyes dart beneath. Your closed lids, and the theater of the mind opens its curtain. Dreams surge into being, elaborate and convincing. The hippocampus, that careful archivist, begins replaying memories. The amygdala stirs, flooding the stage with emotional light. The cortex improvises scenery from scraps of experience. A street corner from your childhood, beside a stranger's face, glimpsed on the news. All rearranged into something impossible, but strangely urgent. The play is not random. It is rehearsal. Every night, the theater stages survival drills. Some are comedic, some terrifying, but all are lessons. The pillow clock marks these transitions faithfully, as though it were proctoring the exam. Non-REM, then REM, then non-REM again. 4 to 6 cycles in a night, each about 90 minutes long, each with different emphases. Early in the night, non-REM dominates, giving your body time to rebuild. Toward morning, REM expands, giving your mind more chances to rehearse. By dawn, the cycles have shifted balance, and you emerge with both body and mind reshaped. The pillow clock has measured it all, though you never saw its face. Sometimes the process falters. You wake in the middle of a cycle, heart racing, dream fragments clinging to you like cobwebs. In those moments you sense how fragile the architecture is, how delicate the gears. Researchers call these intrusions artifacts, false positives, spurious recordings, moments when the system stutters. You might dream of ringing phones that never existed, or wake convinced you heard someone call your name. These are not messages from beyond, but static from within, glitches of the machinery as it transitions between modes. Yet the question remains, if Earth is a test, perhaps these artifacts are intentional. Perhaps the examiners wanted to see, not perfection, but your response to imperfection. Do you dismiss anomalies, or do you bend to accommodate them? There is something uncanny about artifacts. You know they are mistakes, yet they feel real. They remind you of old case files where data gaps, smudges, and blurred photographs tell as much as the clear entries. A missing page can haunt you more than a complete one. Dreams do this constantly. They hand you incomplete stories, people without faces, houses without rooms, and you wake unsettled because incompleteness demands interpretation. Maybe that is the point. Life itself is incomplete. You are tested not with perfect information, but with fragments. And how you arrange those fragments determines whether you pass or fail. Your cracked watch still lies on the nightstand. It's frozen, hand unmoving. The artifact of a moment when time stopped, an error in the record. Yet beneath your pillow, the hidden clock ticks on, faithful to cycles, not minutes. The two clocks contradict each other, one broken, one alive. And between them, you lie, a dreamer caught between error and rhythm. That contradiction may be the exam itself. Can you navigate between clocks that disagree, between realities that don't align, between the world that measures time in seconds and the world that measures it in tides? As the cycles deepen, your awareness drifts. You lose track of where you are, and the dream theater pulls you under completely. You are walking in a city that shifts under your feet. You recognize none of it, yet you accept it. The architecture of sleep has no need for consistency. Its only requirement is that you keep moving, keep rehearsing, keep adapting. The examiners may never care about your answers, only about your willingness to stay in motion, even when the map makes no sense. Scientists once thought dreams were meaningless. Now they suspect the opposite. Experiments show that people deprived of REM sleep struggle with problem solving, with emotional regulation, with creativity. The theater is not a distraction. It is the heart of the process. Your mind builds simulations, runs scenarios, fails safely so that you can succeed later. The pillow clock times each performance. You may not remember every play, but your brain does. The exam is cumulative, the lessons compounding. The score written not in numbers, but in your resilience, your insight, your empathy. There is a gentleness to this architecture, but also a sternness. You cannot bargain with it. You cannot ask for fewer cycles or shorter ones. You cannot negotiate the terms. The test is compulsory, nightly, lifelong, and yet it asks nothing more than surrender. Give yourself to the hidden clock, and it will restore you. Fight it, and it will break you. This is the paradox. The simplest question is often the hardest. Can you rest? Can you let go? Can you trust the machinery to run without your supervision? Some nights the answer is no. Insomnia holds you captive, tossing you back and forth while the pillow clock ticks unanswered. In those nights, you glimpse the cruelty of the exam. The graders do not wait, the test continues, and your absence is recorded. The next day, your judgment wavers, your mood shatters, your patience dissolves. You feel marked down, as though the missing hours were points deducted from a score you cannot see. And still, the next night, the exam waits again, patient, relentless, eternal. The pillow clock does not hold grudges. It simply begins where it left off. You roll over, sensing the shift from non-REM back into REM, the cycles repeating, each one a new question. The room is quiet, the broken watch silent, the pillow clock steady. You are halfway between factory and theater, repair and rehearsal, silence and storm. The architecture of the night holds you in place, as if the exam room itself were built into your biology. And above it all, unseen but possible, watchers lean closer. Recording your every answer, you drift deeper still, and what began as mechanical cycles starts to take on a human quality, as if the night itself has decided to tell a story. The mind is no longer a silent factory humming in the dark. It has become a stage, and memories are its actors. One by one, fragments of your day are pulled forward, stitched together into scenes you did not choose. A face glimpsed at the grocery store, the sound of laughter overheard through a wall, the faint anxiety that clung to you after reading the news. All of them walk out onto the stage as if auditioning for a role in a play you didn't know you were directing. The hippocampus conducts the rehearsal. Shaped like a tiny seahorse and buried deep in the folds of your brain, it has stored the raw footage of your day. Now it projects those images, looping them back into the cortex, testing which should be reinforced, which should be discarded. The cortex, like an audience both critical and patient, watches carefully. Some connections are applauded and strengthened. Others are ignored until they fade. It is a nightly negotiation, a way of deciding what will become part of the permanent archive and what will vanish into static. The amygdala sits nearby, unwilling to let the show remain neutral. It is an editor that insists on color, on weight, on emotional charge. Without it, dreams would be dry recordings. With it, they are saturated, urgent, unforgettable. That tiny argument you had with a colleague can become a roaring confrontation. In your dreams, that moment of joy you barely noticed can swell into an overwhelming festival. The amygdala knows what matters to survival, and it will not let you forget. It ensures that lessons linked to strong emotions are etched more deeply, because those are the lessons that could save you when the real test comes. Dreams weave these fragments into something that feels both absurd and essential. You may find yourself running through streets that twist and fold in impossible ways. You may sit across from someone who has been gone for years, speaking as though they never left. You may find yourself in places that do not exist, yet feel more familiar than your own home. None of it follows waking logic, and yet you accept it because the purpose is not accuracy. The purpose is rehearsal. In a world where threats and opportunities emerge without warning, the most useful skill is adaptability. Dreams test this relentlessly. Can you respond to fear when it arrives in a new form? Can you navigate when the map has been torn apart? Can you improvise when nothing fits the rules you know? Each cycle of REM is a new round of questions. Sometimes the questions are gentle, almost playful. Other times they are harsh, even brutal. Nightmares may feel cruel, but they are rehearsals in disguise, forcing you to face danger in a place where failure costs nothing. A dream in which you are chased endlessly is not punishment, it is practice. Your body rehearses the surge of adrenaline, the rapid calculations of escape routes, the resilience needed to keep moving under pressure. You wake shaken, but the lesson lingers. The next time fear grips you in daylight, you are a little more prepared. The examiners, if they exist, may have designed no better method of teaching than this. Test in safety. Prepare for peril. The cracked watch on your nightstand remains frozen, the second hand unmoving. It is a reminder of waking time. Linear and fragile, easily broken. The pillow clock beneath your head ignores it. It marks cycles, not minutes, rehearsals, not deadlines. Between them lies the truth. Time is not a single thing, but many. Waking time is rigid, dream time is elastic. Waking time moves forward in a straight line. Dream time folds back on itself, stretches and compresses. You are tested not on which is real, but on how you navigate when both exist at once. Some people report dreams that change their lives. A mathematician dreams of a solution. A musician hears a melody. An inventor sees a machine. History is filled with such stories. Kekule dreamed of a snake biting its tail and realized the structure of the benzene molecule. Paul McCartney woke with the tune of Yesterday already playing in his mind. These are not coincidences. They are the natural outcome of a brain that spends the night rehearsing, recombining, testing possibilities. The examiners may not care about your grades in school or your promotions at work. They may only care whether you can adapt, whether you can create, whether you can find patterns in chaos. Dreams are the workshop where those skills are tested and refined, and yet you rarely remember the details. Most dreams vanish upon waking, dissolving like mist. You are left with only traces, feelings, vague images. But those traces are enough. The lessons are encoded not in the stories themselves, but in the rewiring of the brain. Your emotional balance shifts, your problem-solving capacity improves, your memory stabilizes. The play ends, the actors vanish, but the script has already been written into you. This too is part of the exam. Can you trust lessons you cannot? Recall, can you accept that growth happens even without your conscious involvement? Sometimes you wake from a dream so vivid it feels like a message. You wonder if someone or something was speaking to you, but the truth is that you were speaking to yourself. The hippocampus and amygdala, the cortex and the hidden networks of neurons all collaborated to produce a story that felt foreign because it was built from pieces you never noticed. The pillow clock simply kept time, cycle after cycle, while the play unfolded. You are both audience and author, both subject and examiner. Caught in a loop where the only grade is whether you emerge stronger. The theatre of memory is vast. Each night it stages countless performances, some forgotten, some remembered, all essential. It is a classroom with no teacher, a rehearsal with no script, an exam with no instructions, and yet it works. You wake changed, repaired, rehearsed. You wake carrying answers you didn't know you wrote. The cracked watch still points to nowhere, the pillow clock still hums, and between them you continue. A student in a school that never closes, an actor in a play that never ends, a test taker in an exam that has no final bell, and somewhere beyond, perhaps, the watchers lean closer, noting not the content of your dreams, but the shape of your responses, the way you adapt, the way you trust. The pillow clock ticks, unseen, but faithful, and the night moves on to its next question. The night does not unfold perfectly, and maybe that is the point. Even the theatre of memory, as vast and intricate as it is, produces errors. You have felt them, the dream that makes no sense even while you are in it. The sudden jolt of waking convinced you heard your name called, though the house was silent. The images that blur and smear like a photograph left too long in the sun. These are artifacts, fragments that never fit, data generated not by the phenomenon itself, but by the method of recording. Your brain is not a flawless archive. It is a case file cluttered with smudges, missing pages, mislabeled folders. If Earth is a test, then perhaps the real exam is not in how perfect your recall is, but in how you navigate imperfection. You rarely receive a clean copy of reality. Instead, you are handed fragments, glimpses of truth, distortions of memory, impressions rather than details. You piece them together into a story, because the mind cannot bear gaps. The pillow clock keeps ticking as you improvise, and somewhere, the examiners, if they exist, may be watching closely. Do you collapse in confusion when the data doesn't add up? Do you cling desperately to one flawed page, declaring it the whole story? Or do you accept that the case file is incomplete and still press forward? Artifacts can be small, a sound that slips into a dream, like an alarm folded into the story as a siren or a bell. They can be grand, a sense of déjà vu, so powerful you swear you have lived this moment before. Psychologists describe these as misfires, the brain blending layers of perception that should remain separate. But misfires are not meaningless. They reveal how fragile the boundaries are between memory and imagination, between perception and projection. They remind you that even when you think you are awake, your mind is filling gaps with guesses. Life itself is dreamlike in that way. Always a partial rendering, always an approximation. Perhaps the exam is not about distinguishing dream from waking, but about living wisely even when you cannot be certain which is which. You turn in bed, the cracked watch on the nightstand staring blindly with its frozen hand, a symbol of failure. In record keeping, time broke once, and the evidence is still there. Yet beneath your head, the pillow clock ticks on, indifferent to the artifact. The difference between them is stark. One preserves error, the other absorbs it into rhythm. The test may be asking you which model you will follow. Do you cling to broken symbols, insisting that truth must be flawless or else meaningless? Or do you trust the rhythm that carries on, imperfect but alive? The case file of dreams is filled with anomalies. Some nights you wake certain you were awake during the dream, convinced you spoke, moved, acted. These are false positives, results produced by the system itself rather than the world beyond. The record shows a response where none existed. Scientists studying sleep note these intrusions moments, when REM bleeds into wakefulness, when muscle atonia falters, when consciousness flickers back on before the cycle is complete. They are glitches, cracks in the machinery. But perhaps glitches are part of the exam. They test how you respond when the rules are broken, when the system itself falters. Do you freeze, afraid of what it means? Or do you adapt, recognizing that error is inevitable, that even in malfunction there is meaning? Dream journals often look like crime reports, incomplete dates, fragmented descriptions, contradictions. You write what you remember upon waking, but already the memory is evaporating. 10 minutes later, half is gone. By noon, almost nothing remains. The case file is thin, the evidence weak, the chain of custody broken, and yet you insist on reading meaning into it. You circle words, highlight phrases, search for patterns. This is not delusion, it is survival. The brain must make sense, even of nonsense. Incomplete evidence is still evidence, and interpretation is still required. Perhaps the examiners watch how you construct stories from fragments, how you find coherence in the blur. Not whether you are correct, but whether you are creative, adaptive, resilient in the face of uncertainty. Think of how astronomers pass the sky. Their instruments pick up static, interference, signals distorted by dust and distance. Rarely is the data clean. They must subtract, correct, estimate. Sometimes they chase ghosts, signals that vanish upon closer inspection, illusions of the instruments themselves. And yet, through this noise, they discovered galaxies, black holes, the echo of the Big Bang. Human knowledge itself is built on artifacts and anomalies interpreted with care. The exam is the same at every scale. How do you respond to imperfection? With despair or with curiosity? The pillow clock keeps ticking, marking the cycles, while the case file thickens with fragments. One dream shows you a friend with the wrong face. Another repeats until you notice the detail you missed. Sometimes you wake in the middle of a cycle, heart pounding, convinced you saw something real. The examiners, if they exist, take note not of the dreams themselves, but of your reactions. Fear is a data point. Perseverance is another. The willingness to keep moving forward despite incomplete evidence may be the true grade. False positives are unsettling. You dream of a phone ringing and wake to silence, but for a moment your body is convinced. Your muscles tense, your heart races, adrenaline floods your system. A ghost event, a phantom stimulus, but the effect is real. This is the nature of artifacts. They may not be true, but they still shape you. Life outside of dreams works the same way. Rumors shape behavior, false memories influence decisions, illusions alter choices. You live not in perfect truth, but in a blend of signals and noise, and still you must act. The exam is less about accuracy than about integrity. What kind of choices do you make when certainty is impossible? Some anomalies feel larger, bordering on supernatural. People speak of sleep paralysis, waking, unable to move while shadows loom at the edge of vision. Neuroscience explains it as muscle atonia persisting, while awareness returns, the dream bleeding into waking perception. But explanation does not erase experience. For those who feel it, the terror is real. The pillow clock ticks on during these episodes, indifferent to the fear, as though reminding you that even in terror, the exam continues. You are asked again, how do you respond? With panic, with endurance, with meaning. The cracked watch waits on the nightstand, unchanged, unmoving. It is an artifact too, a visible glitch in your waking life. You could throw it away, but you keep it, perhaps because it symbolizes something you cannot let go of. Anomalies matter not because they are correct, but because they remind you that perfection is an illusion. The examiners may value not the neatness of your answers, but your ability to carry broken things, to live with them, to learn from them, and always beneath you. The pillow clock hums, faithful and steady, marking cycles without judgment, then REM, then non-REM again. The case file grows each night, filled with fragments and artifacts, false positives and gaps. It will never be complete, and maybe that is the point. You are being asked to live in incompleteness, to act without perfect clarity, to construct meaning where there is none. The test is not about perfection. It is about persistence. The night deepens. Dreams become stranger, more fragmented, less tethered to the day you lived. The hippocampus continues its rehearsal. The amygdala colors each scene. The cortex improvises. Wildly, artifacts appear more often, now glitches, distortions, missing pieces. The case file of dreams is chaotic, a pile of evidence that contradicts itself. And yet the pillow clock keeps time, steady and calm, as if assuring you that chaos is also part of the pattern. The examiners, unseen, watch as you navigate the storm, not to see if you are right, but to see if you keep going. The cycles turn again, but something has shifted. You sense it in the depth of the dream, in the way the theater no longer confines itself to rooms and streets and faces, but stretches outward into something larger. The stage of memory expands. until it resembles the sky itself. The hippocampus and amygdala continue their work, but now their projections spill over into vast landscapes, galaxies, horizons you cannot name. Perhaps it is imagination, perhaps it is metaphor, or perhaps it is a reflection of something real, that the mind and the cosmos are shaped by similar laws, both built as testing grounds with boundaries you cannot cross but can always approach. Astronomers speak of the observable universe, the region from which light has had time to reach us since the Big Bang. Beyond that horizon lies mystery. We cannot see it, cannot measure it, cannot prove what is there. Yet the boundary itself is meaningful. It is the edge of our vision, the line that defines the scope of our knowledge. Dreams operate the same way. Within the boundary, stories unfold, fragments recombine, lessons are rehearsed. Beyond it lies darkness, unreachable. You can sense it pressing against you, but you cannot step across. Both the cosmos and the mind are classrooms that reveal only part of the test. The examiners give you enough to work with, but never the whole sheet. The cosmic microwave background, the faint radiation left from the universe's birth, fills the sky with its near-uniform glow. It is the oldest light, stretched into microwaves by the expansion of space, a whisper from a time before stars. Scientists map it, study its fluctuations, find in its tiny variations the seeds of galaxies. To dream is to encounter something similar, faint leftovers from the earliest moments of your life, stretched and distorted, still present as background noise in the theater of sleep. A childhood fear, a forgotten kindness, a face glimpsed decades ago can all reappear. Faint but persistent, shaping the constellations of your inner world. You are built from ancient signals, just as the cosmos is. The exam may be asking if you can read those signals, if you can interpret the faint glow of your own history, if you can learn from the oldest light still visible. The cracked watch sits silent on the nightstand, its frozen hand a reminder that waking time is fragile, linear, and breakable. The pillow clock hums beneath your head, marking cycles of sleep and dream, elastic and recursive. Above both of them stretches the cosmic clock, measured in billions of years, galaxies turning like gears in a mechanism too vast to see at once. 3 timepieces, 3 measures, none aligned. Which is correct? Which exam are you taking? Perhaps all of them at once. And perhaps the grade lies not in choosing one, but in living within their contradictions. You dream of flying, and the dream carries you past rooftops, past clouds, into darkness scattered with stars. You feel both exhilaration and dread. The stars do not twinkle here. They burn steady and bright, each one a furnace millions of times more powerful than your own sun. You sense the scale, and it dwarfs you. Yet you also feel the intimacy, as though each star is part of your own mind, each galaxy another thought pattern unfolding. Neuroscientists sometimes describe the brain as a universe of connections, billions of neurons, trillions of synapses, networks so vast they defy comprehension. The cosmos is the same, only larger. Both are systems too complex to grasp from within. Perhaps the examiners designed it this way, to see how you act when confronted with immensity. When your mind touches scales it cannot contain. Do you shrink back, insisting it is too much? Or do you expand, accepting that mystery itself is part of the curriculum? The case file of dreams grows stranger. Faces dissolve into constellations. Voices become pulses of light. Emotions stretch. Across eons, you are no longer rehearsing daily survival. You are rehearsing perspective. The dream demands you confront your place in a system that began long before you and will continue long after. In the cosmic mirror, the nightly exam shifts its focus. It is no longer about how you treat the neighbor or handle fear, but about how you situate yourself in a universe that is both indifferent and intimate. The pillow clock keeps ticking, unbothered by whether the cycles carry you across rooms or across galaxies. Time is time, and rehearsal is rehearsal. The examiners take notes all the same. Astronomers measure light that has traveled for billions of years, stretched by the expansion of the universe, shifted into red. This redshift tells them that galaxies are racing away, that space itself is expanding. In dreams, you feel something similar. Moments stretched until they become unbearable. Distances elongated until they cannot be crossed. You wake unsettled, but the feeling is familiar. Time stretches in both dreams and cosmos. Both remind you that the arrow of time points outward, away from the past, towards something you cannot reach but must approach anyway. Perhaps the test is not about stopping the arrow, but about how gracefully you follow it. There is comfort in patterns. Galaxies form filaments, vast threads of matter stretched across space. Neurons form networks, vast webs of connections stretched across the brain. Both are tangled, complex, alive with energy. Both give rise to emergent phenomena, consciousness in one, cosmic structure in the other. You cannot see either in totality. From within, you can only map fragments, connect dots, infer the whole. The examiners may not care if your maps are correct. They may only care that you keep mapping, that you keep searching for coherence, even in a universe that hides more than it reveals. The cracked watch cannot measure this scale. It is too small, too brittle. The pillow clock cannot either, bound as it is to the rhythms of a single night. Yet both hint at it. One shows how fragile your grasp on time is. The other shows how elastic it can be. Together they prepare you for the cosmic clock above, the one that measures stars and galaxies. Perhaps the hidden question is whether you can live with all three. To honor the small, endure the broken, and still imagine the vast. You drift through another REM cycle, and the dream carries you to the edge of something immense. A horizon appears not, of land or sea, but of perception itself. Beyond it lies nothing you can know. It is the observable limit, the point beyond which signals cannot return. The cosmos has its horizon, so do your dreams. Both are boundaries imposed, not to punish you, but to define the scope of your classroom. The examiners never give you the full paper. They give you enough questions to measure your growth, but never the whole set. You may rage at the limit, but perhaps the grade lies not in breaking it, but in working well within it. You wake briefly, heart steady, mind half full of stars. The cracked watch is still frozen. The pillow clock still hums. The cosmic clock still turns. 3 timepieces, 3 questions. Which do you trust? Which exam do you prepare for? Or are they all the same exam, given in layers, each reinforcing the other? You close your eyes again, and the dream pulls you back under. The exam continues, this time in galaxies and horizons, this time in signals older than memory. The dream grows more vivid until you notice it turning strange in a way you cannot ignore. A building folds into itself, a street loops endlessly, a conversation repeats word for word, and instead of accepting it, you pause. Awareness blooms. You realize, suddenly, that you are dreaming. The theater of memory has not hidden itself well enough and for a brief moment you glimpse the scaffolding. Lucid dreams arrive, this way-like catching sight of the stage lights above a play. You are still inside the story, but you recognize its nature. The sensation is electric. With awareness comes control, or at least the illusion of it. You test the edges. You decide to fly, and your body lifts effortlessly, the laws of gravity suspended like curtains drawn back. You will a scene to change, and it shifts as though painted over by an invisible hand. For once, you are not only actor, but director. The exhilaration is unmatched, the sense of freedom overwhelming. Yet even here, boundaries remain. Neuroscientists studying lucid dreaming see something uncanny in the data. When subjects signal from inside dreams with eye movements, the timing of their actions often precedes their conscious intention. The brain begins preparing a movement before the dreamer decides to make it. Even in lucidity, even in control, the machinery runs ahead of awareness. You feel like an author, but you are also an audience to processes already in motion. Free will blurs, agency flickers. The exam sharpens its question. What will you do when control itself is revealed as partial, when your choices are already written before you claim them? You fly higher in the dream, exhilarated, but a nagging sense remains. Was the flight your decision, or had the brain already decided you would fly before you thought of it? The exhilaration does not vanish, but it becomes layered with unease. If the test is about freedom, then the conditions are rigged. You are given the sensation of autonomy, but the script runs deeper. The pillow clock ticks beneath your head, timing every cycle, but you cannot change its rhythm. Even in lucidity, the examiners have already arranged the room. The cracked watch on the nightstand is still frozen, a symbol of time broken. The pillow clock beneath you ticks steadily, marking cycles, and now, for the first time, you feel a third gaze. It is not the stars, not the cosmic horizon, not the dream characters. It is something else, a weight of attention that feels intimate. The examiners you feared may not be distant gods or aliens or future humans. They may not be external at all. The twist arrives with unsettling clarity. Perhaps the one watching has always been you, not the you who flies in the dream, not the you who wakes each morning, but the deeper self, the witness that observes without judgment throughout the cycles. This witness has been silent, watching you surrender, adapt, panic, or trust. Every decision you make in the dream, every emotion you carry into waking, every way you respond to broken clocks and hidden rhythms, it all accumulates in that witness. The exam is not surveillance from without, but reflection from within. You are both test taker and examiner, both subject and observer. The grade is not written anywhere outside. It is carved in the way you carry yourself into the next day, into the next cycle, into the next choice. The dream continues, but it feels different now. You understand that lucidity is not full control, but a spotlight, a chance to see yourself acting. You notice how quickly fear rises, how often you cling to symbols, how easily you accept contradictions. You are less focused on flying and more on noticing how you react when the ground disappears. This is the deeper lucidity, not bending the dream to your will, but watching your will unfold under conditions you do not control. The pillow clock ticks on, steady and impartial. It does not care whether you dream lucidly or blindly. It records your cycles with the same rhythm. But in that ticking you hear something new, an invitation to take ownership of the exam, to recognize that the watchers are not external at all. The cracked watch, broken and silent, reminds you of the self you believe to be in charge, the one bound to minutes and deadlines. The pillow clock reminds you of the deeper self, the one bound to cycles and rhythms. And above them both, the witness self remains, watching quietly, grading not with numbers but with understanding. Free will remains ambiguous. You still feel you choose, but you also see the machinery moving first. Perhaps the examiners designed it this way to force you into humility. Or perhaps you designed it this way to remind yourself that life is not about total control, but about how you navigate partial control. The test is not whether you can bend reality, but whether you can live gracefully when reality bends you. You drift in and out of lucidity. Sometimes you know you are dreaming. Sometimes you forget and sink back into the story. Each time, the observer within watches both states without preference. This too is part of the exam, to see how you act when you believe you are free, and how you act when you believe you are not. Both are data points, both are answers on the invisible sheet. The pillow clock hums steadily, marking the questions as they pass. Lucid control tempts you. You conjure old friends, re-enter places you long ago left, rewrite endings that hurt. For a time, it feels like healing. But even here, the amygdala and hippocampus are at work, shaping memory, shifting emotion. The healing is real not because you changed the dream, but because you practiced facing what you had avoided. The lesson remains the same: adaptability, resilience, empathy. The examiners, or the deeper self, or both, care less about what you conjure and more about how you respond when the conjured scene dissolves again. Eventually, the lucidity fades. You forget again that you are dreaming. The theater regains its power, and you are swept along. But the insight lingers. Somewhere inside, you know that even in blindness, you are being observed, and that the observer is not alien but intimate. The cracked watch stays frozen, the pillow clock ticks, the cosmic horizon stretches, and the witness self watches, silent and unblinking. The exam continues, and the twist is not that you are being graded by others, but that you are grading yourself in every moment, waking and dreaming alike. The dream shifts again, and with it the room. You had been floating between lucidity and surrender, guided by the steady hum beneath your pillow, but suddenly the hum is gone. At first you think you imagined it, that the rhythm continues so quietly you cannot hear. Yet, as the silence deepens, a realization takes hold. The pillow clock has stopped. For the first time since you closed your eyes, the hidden metronome has gone still. The absence is unbearable. It is not noise that unsettles you, but the lack of it. The silence feels heavy, final, like a page torn from a book. You wait for the rhythm to resume, for the cycle to continue, but nothing comes. In that stillness, another presence arrives. Not a figure, not a voice, but a force woven into the fabric of the dream. The air itself thickens, heavy with inevitability. You recognize it without introduction. Entropy. It was observed that entropy is not a character, but a principle. The measure of disorder that always rises, the arrow of time that points in only one direction. In waking life, it explains why heat dissipates, why order breaks down, why stars burn out and watches stop ticking. In dreams, it manifests as a weight, a truth that cannot be ignored. Entropy does not scold, does not comfort. It simply is, patient and unrelenting. The cracked watch on the nightstand seems almost proud in this moment. Its frozen hand no longer a flaw but a prophecy. This is where all clocks end. The pillow clock, which had seemed so faithful, so constant, is revealed as fragile too. Nothing escapes. Cycles end, rhythms falter, systems decay. If Earth is a test, perhaps this is the most difficult question. How do you live knowing everything ends? Entropy does not speak, yet its lesson is clear. The exam is not graded on perfection, but on response. The clock will stop, the body will falter, memories will fade, civilizations will collapse. The test is not whether you can prevent this, but how you carry yourself in its shadow. Do you despair, paralyzed by futility? Do you rage, clinging to illusions of permanence? Or do you act anyway, creating, sharing, building, even knowing it cannot last? Entropy waits to see. The dream mirrors the lesson. The theater of memory crumbles around you. Streets collapse, buildings dissolve, characters disintegrate. You try to hold them together, to force the dream back into coherence, but the more you resist, the faster it decays. Entropy is examiner and environment both, dismantling the scene to see what remains of you when structure is gone. The pillow clock does not resume. Time feels suspended, or perhaps accelerated beyond measure. You are asked to continue without rhythm, without reassurance, without the hum that once guided you. In waking science, entropy is not cruelty but law. Energy spreads, order gives way to disorder. Systems move from concentration to diffusion. Without it, there would be no change, no growth, no evolution. Dreams show this too. When the stage collapses, new images emerge. When the memory dissolves, space opens for another. Entropy clears the slate so the next act can begin. Yet the experience is frightening because it strips away the illusion of control. You do not decide when the clock stops. You can only decide what to do when it does. You stand in the silence, waiting. The cracked watch glints faintly. The pillow beneath you feels colder without its hidden pulse. And still, entropy presses closer. You recall the broken data from earlier, the artifacts, the false positives. They felt unsettling, but manageable. This is different. This is not a glitch in the system, but the system itself. The examiners, whether external or internal, have handed you the hardest paper yet. Question 7. What is your answer to impermanence? Perhaps the grade lies not in resisting entropy, but in embracing it. To see beauty in fragility, to act with kindness even when no trace will remain, to plant seeds knowing you will not see the tree mature, these may be the real metrics. The pillow clock may restart or it may not. The test continues regardless. And your response is already being recorded in the quiet witness inside you. Entropy does not linger cruelly. It does its work and withdraws, leaving you shaken but awake within the dream. Around you, fragments of the theater rebuild. The stage returns, though altered. The pillow clock resumes, its hum hesitant at first, then steady. The frozen watch on the nightstand remains unchanged, but you view it differently now. It is not only a symbol of error, but a reminder of truth. All clocks stop, all rhythms end, all systems decay. The pillow clock will falter again someday, and so will you. But the exam continues until then, and each moment is another chance to answer. The dream eases as entropy withdraws, but the weight of the encounter lingers. You understand now that the examiners, whoever or whatever they are, care less about your victories and more about your endurance. They want to know what you do. When the hum ceases, when the order crumbles, when the system reveals its end, You are graded not on how long you can hold back entropy, but on how you face it when it arrives. The pillow clock ticks softly again, but you no longer take it for granted. Its rhythm feels like a gift, temporary and precious. You close your eyes within the dream and let the cycles continue, grateful for their return but mindful of their fragility. Entropy has shown its face, and the exam has shifted. The questions are harsher now, but perhaps also more honest. You have been reminded that every hum, every breath, every dream is fleeting, and that your answers must be written in the sand. Knowing the tide will come, the hum of the pillow clock steadies again after its terrifying pause. And for a few cycles you allow yourself to believe stability has returned. Dreams resume their odd rehearsals, memories are sorted, emotions repainted. Yet something lingers from the silence that entropy left behind. You cannot forget how icily the rhythm faltered, how swiftly order dissolved. And soon the illusion of safety cracks once more. This time it is not entropy arriving as a weight, but something subtler, more insidious, loss. A scene begins in the dream and collapses halfway through. A face appears without features. A sentence begins but does not end. You reach for meaning and grasp only static. The pillow clock still ticks, but the signal is breaking down. It was logged that even the most intricate systems can fail not in grand destruction but in missing records, in corrupted files, in empty pages where information should be. Sleep scientists call this fragmentation. Protocols falter, cycles are interrupted, memories are not properly encoded. The hippocampus sends its signals, but the cortex drops them. The amygdala tries to amplify emotions, but the connection stutters. The result is data loss. You wake with holes in your night, empty. Gaps where learning should have occurred. If Earth is a test, perhaps this is the nightmare version. Not dramatic collapse, but quiet erasure. The exam is being graded, but your answers are missing from the sheet. The cracked watch on the nightstand seems mocking now. Its silence is not a warning, but a mirror. Time itself can misfile you, leave you blank. The pillow clock beneath your head ticks on, but its rhythm feels untrustworthy. The chain of custody is broken. No examiner can grade a test whose pages have gone missing, and yet you are asked to continue to face each day as though the record were intact. This is the darkest question. What do you do when you are no longer sure your actions are remembered at all? Civilizations face this too. Records are burned, archives destroyed, languages forgotten, entire histories vanish into gaps. Archaeologists find fragment shards of pottery, crumbling manuscripts, ruins with no explanation. These are the data losses of culture, the missing cycles of humanity. Yet the story continues, rebuilt on fragments. If Earth is a test, then perhaps civilizations are graded not only on their achievements, but on how they respond to forgetting. Do they collapse into despair, or do they create anew, filling gaps with imagination, forging meaning despite the loss? The dream intensifies. You wander through a library where shelves stretch forever, but most of the books are empty. Their covers remain, their weight is real, but when you open them, the pages are blank. You hurry from one to another, desperate for something to read, but emptiness meets you everywhere. The pillow clock ticks in the distance, but the sound is faint, unreliable, as if measured through walls of static. This is the nightmare of data loss, the darkest hour of the exam. Laboratories know this fear too. Protocol deviation, specimen contamination, corrupted files. A decade of research undone by a misplaced label. A breakthrough hidden because a drive failed. Quality control is meant to prevent this, but no system is perfect. False positives slip through, true results vanish. The chain of custody fractures. The exam becomes unfair, and yet it continues. You are asked to answer questions with missing pages, to work with evidence half erased. Perhaps this is the real measure. Can you maintain integrity even when the test is broken? The cracked watch gleams faintly in moonlight, a relic of failure. The pillow clock wavers, its hum irregular now, sometimes skipping beats. You begin to doubt it altogether. What if the exam is not being recorded? What if your nights are wasted, your rehearsals lost, your lessons ungraded? The weight of futility presses harder than entropy itself. Better destruction than erasure. Better collapse than blankness. At least collapse leaves ruins. Erasure leaves nothing. And yet, in the deepest dark, the witness self still observes. Even when the pillow clock falters, even when the books in the dream library are blank, even when memories dissolve before they can be stored, something remains. The observer is not bound to pages or protocols. It grades not what is preserved, but how you respond to loss. You slam books shut in anger. You despair at the emptiness. You pace through the silent library. But then, perhaps, you pause. You take one of the blank volumes, and instead of despair, you begin to write. This is resilience. Not the illusion of recovering what is lost, but the choice to create despite it. Civilizations do this too. After archives burn, they tell stories. After languages die, they invent new ones. After empires fall, they build again. The test is not whether you can preserve perfection. The test is whether you can build meaning even when meaning has been erased. The pillow clock skips a beat, then resumes. The cracked watch remains frozen, but you understand now that even blank pages are invitations. The exam is harsher than you imagined, but it is not hopeless. You wake briefly in the night, unsettled, unable to recall your dreams. The gaps are enormous. Hours feel missing. The pillow clock hums again, but you do not trust it. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling, aware that something has been lost. And still, morning comes. You rise, carry your body through the day, make choices, speak words. Even when the record is incomplete, the living continue. The witness notes this, perhaps even values it more than the flawless answer sheet. To persist in the absence of certainty may be the highest grade, and so the darkest. Hour passes. The dream library remains half empty, but a few volumes regain their words. The pillow clock steadies again, fragile but present. The cracked watch is unchanged, but it feels less like a curse now, more like a warning you are willing to face. Data loss will return, records will vanish, but the exam is not about preservation. It is about how you write in the blank spaces. The night stretches on, and the silence after the darkest hour leaves a residue. Even when the pillow clock resumes its rhythm, you hear faint static beneath the hum, as though the mechanism is not entirely repaired. You drift into another dream, but this time the theatre does not confine itself to streets or libraries. It opens to the sky again, vast and endless, filled with stars and signals. The cosmos returns as a mirror, but now it feels unstable, as though its transmissions are faltering. Astronomers describe the universe as full of whispers, radio waves from pulsars, light stretched from distant galaxies, the fading glow of the cosmic microwave background. Their instruments catch these faint messages, pass them, amplify them, But always, beneath the signals, there is noise. Static fills the detectors, a reminder that the cleanest data does not exist. You sense this. Now, in the dream, stars blink irregularly, constellations scatter, signals arrive distorted. It is as if the examiners have tuned the dial to static, testing whether you will abandon the search or listen more closely. The cracked watch still sits on the nightstand, frozen as ever, a relic of time's betrayal. The pillow clock hums beneath. Your head, steady but imperfect, marked with interference. And now the cosmos itself seems to fail, its grand clock reduced to broken signals. You reach for patterns in the noise, straining to decode the messages. A faint pulse repeats at intervals. A sudden burst interrupts the silence. Are these answers or only illusions? The exam does not clarify. The test is to see how you act when the messages fade, when certainty dissolves, when meaning is buried. In static, in the dream, you find yourself at a console. Knobs and dials arrayed before you, a screen flickering with graphs of noise. You twist the dial, and for a moment the signal clears. A star map, precise and glowing. Then static overwhelms it, and the pattern is gone. You twist again, desperate, chasing clarity. Each time the signal returns only to vanish. This is the set piece of the cosmos, not destruction, not erasure, but fading. The examiners want to know whether you can endure the slow drowning of meaning in noise. In waking life, scientists know this struggle well. Radio astronomers track faint bursts across the sky, only to discover interference from microwaves or satellites. Particle physicists sift billions of collisions for one clear result, there. Detectors flooded with irrelevant sparks. Data always comes wrapped in noise, truth always hidden in static. The exam is universal. Do you persist, refining methods, sharpening instruments, refusing to abandon the search? Or do you surrender, declaring it hopeless? The pillow clock ticks faintly beneath you, its hum almost buried in interference. Strain to hear it, and the effort itself becomes the lesson. Attention is part of the test. Static is not a failure, but a condition. The examiners watch how you lean closer, how you separate signal from noise, not perfectly, but faithfully. Your willingness to keep listening may be the only answer that matters. Then comes the payoff. Amid the static, a signal cuts through with startling clarity. A pulse, regular and unmistakable. It is not a voice, not a message in words, but a rhythm. You recognize it instantly. It is the same pattern as the pillow clock. The hum beneath your head and the pulse from the cosmos are aligned, synchronized across scales. For a moment, noise falls away, and you feel the connection. The small and the vast, the sleeper and the stars, the hidden metronome and the galaxy's heartbeat, one rhythm, one clock. The examiners reveal just enough to show that the test has always been coherent, even if obscured by interference. And then, as suddenly as it appeared, the signal fades again. Static swallows it. The cosmos returns to noise. But you have heard. It and that is enough. The exam is not about perfect clarity, but about recognizing coherence when it appears. To hear the pattern once is to know it exists. You wake briefly, heart steady, eyes open to the dim room. The cracked watch on the nightstand is no longer frozen. Its second hand moves, slow and deliberate, as if time itself has restarted. The artifact that mocked you through the night has been repaired, or perhaps reinterpreted. It was never broken, only waiting. The pillow clock hums steadily again, confident and strong. For the first time, all clocks agree. Waking, dreaming, cosmic. The payoff is not that the exam has ended, but that it makes sense. The moment passes quickly. The watch ticks normally now, but you cannot prove it was ever still. The pillow clock continues, though you cannot show it to anyone else. The cosmic signal fades back into noise, and you cannot summon it again. Yet the coherence you felt remains inside you. It is the reward for endurance, for patience, for listening. The examiners did not give you an answer. They gave you a glimpse. That glimpse is the passing grade. The dream drifts toward morning. The cosmos dims. The static recedes. The pillow clock slows, as if preparing for the final cycle. You understand now that the test is not cruelty but calibration. It is not about perfection, but about persistence. Not about certainty, but about faith. The payoff was never clarity alone. It was the recognition that clarity exists, even fleetingly, and that it is worth listening for. The cracked watch ticks softly on the nightstand. The pillow clock hums beneath your head. The witness self watches silently, and somewhere beyond the noise, the cosmos keeps time in ways you will never fully grasp. The exam continues, but you are no longer afraid of static. You know that within the noise there are moments of signal. That is enough. Morning edges toward you, though you cannot yet see it. The final cycle turns, the pillow clock slowing as if it too knows the night is almost over. Dreams drift into fragments, softer, less vivid. Scenes fade before they are finished. Voices trail away mid-sentence. You sense the architecture of sleep dismantling itself, closing the theater, dimming the lights. Yet the witness self remains, silent and attentive, watching to the end. The cracked watch on the nightstand ticks now with quiet certainty. You cannot say when it restarted, whether it ever truly froze, or whether the stopping was only a symbol meant for you alone. But its second hand moves steadily, as if time itself has agreed to carry you forward. The pillow clock hums beneath your head, slower now, like the heartbeat of the night preparing to rest. And above both of them, the cosmic clock continues. Galaxies turning, stars burning, horizons stretching outward. 3 timepieces again, but no longer in conflict. You have learned to live among them, to accept their contradictions as part of the exam. You think of all that has unfolded, the surrender of sleep, the architecture of non-REM and REM, the theater of memory, the case file of dreams, the cosmic mirror, the lucid twist, the silence of entropy, the loss of data, the static of fading signals, and the brief coherence that returned in the payoff. Each cycle was a question. Each scene was a test. You were asked not for perfect answers, but for honest ones, written in your reactions, etched into your choices, reflected in the way you carry yourself when you wake. No examiner arrives to hand you a grade. No voice declares pass or fail. Instead, there is only silence, broken by the soft ticking of clocks. Perhaps that is the point. The test was never meant to end with certainty. It was meant to shape you, to draw out patience, resilience, adaptability, empathy. The watchers, if they exist, do not reveal themselves, and the score remains invisible. Yet you feel graded nonetheless, not in numbers, but in understanding. The witness inside you holds the record, and that is enough. The final cycle ends, and dreams dissolve into fragments, too faint to follow. You wake into the pale light of morning, the pillow cool, the cracked watch ticking. The pillow clock quiet now until tonight. The world outside is unchanged, yet you carry the weight of the exam with you. Every choice today will be another answer. Every kindness, Every hesitation, every attempt to build meaning in uncertainty will be part of the test. The questions have not ended. They have only shifted back into waking form. You rise, stretch, and step into the day. The clocks move forward, the sun arcs upward, time resumes its ordinary pace. Yet you know that beneath the surface, the exam continues. Tonight you will return to the pillow clock, surrender again to the cycles, rehearse again in the theatre of memory, face again the artifacts, the losses, the static. And each time you will be asked anew, what will you do with imperfection, with endings, with uncertainty? The exam is not about reaching a final page. It is about how you live in the middle, how you carry yourself in the ungraded moments, how you choose when you do not know the rubric. Perhaps the only failing answer is despair, and the only passing answer is persistence. Perhaps the only grade is the life you shape each day, recorded in the silent ledger of the witness self. The cracked watch ticks on the nightstand. The pillow clock will wait for you tonight. The cosmos continues without pause, indifferent yet generous in its vastness. And you remain here, a dreamer, a student, a test-taker, aware now that every moment is both question and answer. The examiners never needed to appear. You have been grading yourself all along. The night has ended, but the test does not. You step into the day carrying not certainty but curiosity, not answers but questions. And perhaps that is the passing grade, to live as though each moment matters, even when the score is hidden, even when the rubric is unknown. The pillow clock is silent now, but you know it will hum again. And when it does, you will return willingly, ready to face the next round of questions, written not in ink, but in dreams, in memory, in stars, in silence. You do not need a final grade to know the exam has shaped you. You only need to keep listening. Keep answering, keep moving forward. And so the story closes, not with resolution, but with invitation. The cracked watch ticks, the pillow clock waits, the cosmos hums, and you, caught between them, are asked one last open question. If Earth is a test, how will you choose to answer today?